Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I keep you up to date with everything happening in the game industry. And yeah, if you've been on any kind of social media website in the last 24 hours or gaming forum, you've probably seen the new PlayStation 5 controller, and people are going absolutely insane over this thing. The design is certainly interesting to say the least, and probably not what many people were actually expecting, if anybody really at all, so we're going to talk about the PlayStation 5 controller here in just a minute and what it's packing under the hood and how the gaming community has been reacting to the new design for the PlayStation 5 controller. Now, Inside Xbox also happened yesterday, and it wasn't really the most exciting episode in the world, and there was some technical issues with the stream over on Mixer, though I assume this has something to do with internet service providers kind of throttling speeds across the world due to so many people overloading the internet right now. But yeah, even though it wasn't the best episode in the world, there was a few key announcements there, mainly for Xbox Game Pass, which continues to look better and better. On top of all that, there are a few other things to discuss as well, so stay tuned for all of that, but first let's dive right into the PlayStation 5 controller. And right away, you're probably going to notice a drastic shift in how this thing was designed. It almost has like a futuristic design to it with the two-tone white and black, and then there is a blue light bar emanating in the middle, and that is one of the things that the gaming community is going crazy over right now. I've seen a lot of people kind of poke fun at the design of this thing, and I will post some of the pictures fans are posting to the internet. Some of them are pretty funny, to be honest, but I do kind of like it. It's really different and it stands out, and it makes me curious as to what the console is going to look like. We're so used to having just white or just a solid black console, but this two-tone design could make for an interesting looking console. There is actually a PlayStation 5 concept floating around right now that kind of emulates the Xbox Series X design, but with this more two-tone look to it, and it looks pretty good to be completely honest. Now the thing is, this is a very gamerish design that you see so often in the PC space. A lot of the time when PC companies like Alienware, as an example, kind of has this design going on with a more futuristic look to it, and I know it's not for everybody. Some people don't really like that style, and I completely understand why, but let's get this out of the way real quick, because it's no secret that the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller looks more similar to the Xbox controller than the PlayStation 4 DualShock 4 controller, and I think that's kind of throwing people off. In fact, the Xbox One controller was trending last night because so many people thinks it looks like the Xbox controller, which, well, it does. Let's be honest here, it does look like the Xbox controller. It has a more similar design to the Xbox controller, and even with the share options buttons that were on the DualShock 4, PlayStation opted in no longer naming them on the controller, similar to what Xbox does. Honestly though, I view this as a good thing because I do think the Xbox makes the best controllers in the industry. That's just my opinion, but I do think that the Xbox has the absolute best controllers in the game industry right now. They feel incredibly comfortable in your hand, they have a good size to them, and they're just nice controllers all around. And even though it looks like Sony took a similar route here, and people might poke fun at that, saying that they're copying Xbox, but we could also say the same thing with the Nintendo Pro controller, which looks even more identical to the Xbox controller than the PlayStation 5 controller. Again, it's just a comfortable design, which is why I think that PlayStation is going in this route, so I only view this as a good thing. Now, the PlayStation 5 controller does have the symmetrical analog sticks compared to the Xbox and Pro controllers asymmetrical. I do prefer the asymmetrical over symmetrical, but honestly, neither really affects me while playing because I don't really think about it. It doesn't take much to adapt to one or the other, or at least in my opinion. You know though, this whole reveal kind of reminds me of the Xbox Series X reveal, where a lot of people was joking about the design and comparing it to a fridge, and now Sony's PlayStation 5 controller is being compared to somebody wearing a tank top. But nonetheless, whether you like the design of the controller, maybe you hate it or you feel indifferent about it, this thing blew up on social media. It's one of the most liked gaming-related tweets and Instagram posts, and it really does go to show you the power of the PlayStation brand. With that said though, what about all the new features for this controller? Because I haven't really mentioned any of those just yet. The first big change that I want to talk about though is this onboard microphone that's on the bottom center of the controller. And this feature is kind of freaking people out a bit because some fans are speculating that there is no headphone jack to use your own microphone in. But don't worry about that because it has now been confirmed that there is indeed a headphone jack. The thing is, we have been following the PlayStation patents on the channel for quite a while now, and this microphone on the controller should not really be all that surprising. First off, if you are worried that somebody's going to listen into you on this microphone, there is a mute button so you can turn that off, but this microphone's main function is more than likely going to be that AI assistant that we've been talking about that has popped up in several PlayStation 5 controller patents. Now, I know there has been some controversy with that patent because Sony noted that it could be used to give help, and one of the ways it can do that is by recommending you to buy microtransactions, which comes off as, well, kind of scummy to be honest. But I do believe that the AI assistant will be the main function of this microphone. I am curious as to how good this microphone will be though, and maybe you can use it to talk online with, though I can't really imagine that would work all that well because I would think that would introduce a lot of background noise that people aren't going to want to hear online. Also, do you really want to hear your friends talking to you through the TV? I've done that before and I hate it personally, but everybody is different, so who knows? The PlayStation 5 controller also does have haptic feedback and adaptive triggers so you can feel the tension in the triggers when you pull them and make it feel more realistic when drawing something like a bow. It's a nice little feature to have, and they even have a create button which will be replacing the share button, and they aren't going into detail about this one just yet, but they are looking to give content creators more options, more or less. As a content creator myself, nothing's going to replace my PC, but you know, I can definitely see some people getting some use out of this. But yeah, fans are going crazy over this thing, and I want to hear your opinion on it as well. Do you like the design of it, or do you wish they would have made it more like the PlayStation 4 controller? I mean, do you like the two-tone color palette? And what about the microphone? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Moving on though, Inside Xbox was happening during the same time frame of this PlayStation 5 controller reveal, and as I noted earlier, it wasn't really the best episode, but there was some big Xbox Game Pass news there. Phil Spencer actually posted a special video on Xbox's Japan's YouTube, letting Japanese customers know that Xbox Game Pass will be launching in Japan next week on April 14th, which is bigger news than what a lot of people realize. Not only could this help Xbox in Japan as they draw closer to releasing the Xbox Series X, as well as Project xCloud over in Japan, which we've talked about into great length on the channel so far. I mean, Japan loves handheld consoles, so if you pair Xbox Game Pass with xCloud over in Japan, that could be absolutely huge. But however, this also affects the West, and you're probably wondering why. Well, now that Xbox Game Pass will be available in Japan, more Japanese developers will end up supporting Xbox Game Pass. We've already been seeing this with Final Fantasy games coming over to Game Pass, Sega released Yakuza 0, and Kiwami 1 and 2 will be coming later this year, and then Nier Automata just released in Game Pass last week. We also can't forget Monster Hunter World and Devil May Cry 5, and all these games are coming from different publishers. That's Square Enix, Capcom, and Sega, which is the big three publishers in Japan, so you're already seeing these big publishers come over to Game Pass and support it, and I suspect we will be seeing a lot more of these Japanese games come over to Game Pass in the future. That is why this is such a big deal for not just Japan, but the West as well. Xbox fans have been starving for more Japanese games, and Game Pass may be the way of getting these Japanese developers to finally support the console. That's not all though, because they did announce the first wave of Xbox Game Pass games for April. The console version is getting Journey to the Savage Planet and Alvastia Chronicles, in addition to, of course, Nier Automata, which released last week. Now, Journey to the Savage Planet just released 3 months ago by Typhoon Studio, so this is a relatively new game, but honestly, it's a really good and underrated game as well in my opinion. I did review this game on the channel, so you can go check that out, and I gave it a pretty good score. It's like a 3D first-person shooter platforming Metroidvania style game. In other words, it's just a 3D Metroidvania, and I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it's going to surprise some people once they play this on Game Pass. It also has an expansion coming, so it should be even better soon. Now, I haven't played Alvastia Chronicles myself, but it does go to show you what I was talking about earlier as we get another Japanese game in Xbox Game Pass. Now, the PC version of Game Pass is actually getting more than the console for the first wave of April being Alvastia Chronicles, Football Manager 2020, Mistover, and Stranger Things 3. I think the first half of April is pretty good, honestly, though. Nier Automata, and I will keep saying this, is one of my favorite games ever, and I'd highly recommend that to absolutely anybody. Go play that game, it's an amazing game. And then you also have Journey to the Savage Planet, and that's a lot of fun as well. And real quick, while we're on the topic of Xbox Game Pass, I also want to highlight Yakuza 0, which released a couple months ago on Game Pass, and you Xbox fans really need to go play that game. It's an amazing game and has one of the best stories in games right now, and if you do want more Yakuza games on Xbox beyond Kiwami 1 and 2, you need to support this franchise and show Sega why supporting the Xbox is a good thing. Now, Xbox did have one more interesting announcement, being Sea of Thieves will be getting a new expansion on April 22nd, Ships of Fortune. You will now be able to represent your favorite trading company by becoming an emissary, and there will be a new trading company, Reaper's Bones, which seems to be all about stealing treasure and players' emissary flags. And one more big component will be an addition to a new pet, cats. Yes, cats will officially be in Sea of Thieves, and because cats don't really like water, make sure your ships do not sink. They're also making some drastic changes to the competitive arena mode, and Ships of Fortune does sound like a pretty good update. It's more reason to jump into Sea of Thieves, and for a game that had such a rocky launch, Sea of Thieves really did turn the ship around, no puns intended. And now for the last bit of news, and that is that Google Stadia will now officially be free for everybody who has a Gmail account. It's no secret that Google Stadia has been struggling, and it looks like Google is responding by making their service free. Of course, you still need to buy the games, but this could end up helping the service for the long term. I mean, a lot of people still question if Google will stay in the game for the long haul, but I think this is a good response here. Now they just need to entice fans by releasing some good games on there, and I think the big one is by putting some exclusive content on Google Stadia. That is what will really draw people in, and once they do that, it could bring in more players, but until then, this is only a start. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.